and get signed and put into action.
All right. Well, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in terms of what's going to happen, but we shall see what's going on. For those that are out there in the social media stream, I want to apologize because I was in the wrong stream at the start of the show. I don't know what happened. I think you created a stream, I created a stream, and we were in both places. I saw you and our guest in one stream, and I was in another, so I had to switch over. So we are coming to you live, those who are watching us via social media, so I certainly apologize for that delay. But you guys are with us now, so stop complaining. Let's get into this show. I want to talk about what's on my mind, all right? And what's really on my mind, I want to say, first of all, thank you to the Michigan Banner Saginaw Community Foundation for your wonderful award, the Heart of the City Award. You all selected, I received, or you chose me as an individual to receive the Visionary Award for the city. And, you know, I kind of was thrown off by that, Rob. When you become the visionary, if you get the Visionary Award, that means you have to have a plan. There's something that you see differently about the community, and you got to put it in action. I've been looking for so long for some of the other people to make some things happen. And so I guess the community is saying, hey, you're the guy we're expecting to make some things happen. So I want to say thank you for that award. And all of you that are out there, all of the other individuals. I know Art Lewis, who's also from our sister station, WSGW, received, I think, the Radio Personality or Media of the Year or something of that nature. So shout out to him and all of the other great individuals who received recommendations and awards for this past year. I certainly think, and anytime someone recognizes you, I consider it a great blessing. So I want to say thank you for that great opportunity, and I hope that I'm able to live up to the standard of the visionary for the year coming forward. I don't know if that's forward or backwards, but either way, we want to thank you. Also, just really quickly, this coming week, there's so many things that are happening, and we got to take some time. We got to take a pause for the causes. The Microsoft Man Code is taking place on this coming Friday, June the 17th. And it's going to be so cool. There's actually 2 days, the 17th and the 18th. I'll be taking a group of young men down. Microsoft Man Code is the brainchild of my dear friend, Shai Everett, who is the global community engagement president or director for Microsoft globally. And it is an opportunity for young Black and brown students to be introduced to the wonderful world of technology with coding and NFT creations and app developments. And they'll be talking about professional development and how you are to be able to succeed in this wonderful world that exists. Technology is everything. So if you want more information about that, there is a flyer on my page, both personal and straight talk with Kareem Bowen. But we're done. We're not taking any more applications. So if you hear that, just thank those, celebrate those who have been selected or who have been able to get in. But registration is currently locked, but that's taking place this weekend. Then also this weekend, which I'm excited about, we are having our Saginaw Juneteenth celebration. That will be June 17th, 18th, and 19th on this coming Friday. In the evening, we will have our Juneteenth pageant. So Miss Juneteenth will be crowned, and Miss Junior Juneteenth, I think is what they're calling her. And then on Saturday, that's Friday. So on Saturday at 10 a.m., we will be doing our Freedom Parade. The Freedom Parade will take place starting at the Marketplace, SBRC Marketplace, right there on Washington Avenue downtown, all the way down to Hood Park. It's exciting. People are signing up. We're getting involved. Fraternal organizations, the Greeks are us, all of y'all that are out there, we need you involved. This is our first expression of our personal freedom. We know that the 4th of July is about the nation and what happened, but we didn't necessarily have the opportunity to celebrate because we wasn't free. So we want everyone to get involved. Shoot me a message here. I've given you numbers. If you want to be involved, there is a Facebook page, Saginaw Juneteenth Celebration. Go to it. Let's get involved. We still need entries into the parade. Rob, what are you going to say?
I didn't hear you say anything about Monday. Monday's the official observation date because Juneteenth falls on a Sunday.
Absolutely. So
Monday.
The following Monday, we're taking it easy. So we're going to take it easy the following Monday because that Saturday is the parade, and then on Sunday we're celebrating fathers. So we are celebrating Black men. When we look at what the atrocities of slavery have caused in families and among men, our Black men were often ostracized in ways that we cannot even begin to have conversations about. So we're going to be celebrating fathers, Black fathers, men on that Sunday with basketball, 3-on-3 basketball tournaments. There'll be proclamation. We're going to read the actual Emancipation Proclamation, that portion of the edict that set the slaves free. So I'm excited. It's going to be a great time, great celebration. So get involved, my people. All right. Continuing in this conversation, I want to thank all of those who are in the stream. Let's like, tag, and share this conversation with other individuals so that they too can be a part of what we're talking about. Now, I was not necessarily, Rob, this is interesting. I was not necessarily going to talk about this. And if you look in what I sent you, this was not part of my conversation, but I took a nap this afternoon and woke up on something completely different, y'all. I have not, and I've stayed outside of the fray. Good evening, Dr. Ben. I've stayed out of the fray as it relates to entertainment news because I feel like we got real people problems.
Oh, yeah.
Entertainers got entertainer problems. They got millionaire problems. And we got, regular problems. We got to pay the mortgage, got to pay the heat, the consumers. But I want to say this because I see this happening not only in Black America as it relates to our entertainers, but I see this as being something that we often have happen in our communities. And I know that I personally have been personally affected by the same thing. And I want to talk about what's going on with our dear sister, Monique. And so I want to talk about it a little bit, Rob, because, I just kind of stayed out of it because I, too, are
you really want to get into that?
I just want to talk about it a little, just because I think that there is a message here that we all need to just kind of pay attention to and lean into just a little bit. And I don't necessarily, like I told you, they got rich people problems. We paying mortgages over here, okay? But I do want to say this. As I've seen this thing go full circle, and in light of what happens now with D.L. Hughley and the Queen Monique, I just want to say this. And those of you who are in the community, and I say this because I am an individual who represents my community. I stand up for issues of Black and brown folks in our community, especially those who are adults, African descendants of slaves. I'm continually sharing and fighting for our people, for equity, inclusion, and just give us our modern day 40 acres and a mule. That's what I'm fighting for, right? And so what I see taking place, and I see her being labeled as difficult and being labeled as cantankerous. I used that word a couple of days. I don't know where that word just came out of my mind. And somebody said, I haven't heard that word in years. Anyways, my old soul pulled it out of anywhere.
It's part of my vocabulary. So
what's that?
It's part of my vocabulary.
It is part of okay. Well, thank you, Rob. Okay, good. So now I'm sounding like an old man. But thank you, Rob. I appreciate it anyway. But I want to say this. And so, there were some things, and what has come to light, and I guess the essence of what I have seen, and what people have copped to, what they've agreed to, is that there were some things that were going on. Monique has been funny forever. But she told Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry, and I think it was Lionsgate Films, no. And it was because she didn't feel as though what they were presenting to her was appropriate for her standard in life. Now, I'll tell you this. If you don't understand your value, nobody will, because, people want you to jump through hoops and they'll assign a value to you, understanding that they're getting the best of you. And what I always tell people is that quality never goes on sale. If you go to Louis Vuitton and some of these really nice stores, you go to Chanel and all of these really nice stores, quality ain't going on sale. Now, you can go get the knockoffs and you can go get some Michael Kors over at Target and get a discount or wherever they sell those stores. But the real quality is not going to sell. You have to understand your value. And so looking at the story, Rob, it's interesting because I looked at her standing up for what she had fought through the ranks in Hollywood. She has had a remarkable career, and she told some power brokers no. And so the response was, so the problem was, not only did she say no to these individuals, but then she went on record and she went on the stage and, in a Monique fashion, said no in her comedic stance, right? So people were offended, and it appears as though I went back, actually got up this afternoon, and I started looking through clips because it bothered me. I don't know why it bothered me, but I was looking at clips and I looked at the conversation that she had with Steve Harvey. Now, Steve is a great guy. I think he's not the funniest person in the world, but I recognize and I appreciate his grind and what he's been able to do in this space called media entertainment. However, in their conversation, he says to her, you have to be careful. This is not a white game. This is not a black game. This is a money game. And that's where I want to center my conversation around this, because oftentimes we forget about the things that are most important to us pursuing a money game. Now, and I want to say to those of you out there, there is nothing, Rob, that is on this planet. And there have been opportunities that have presented themselves, but if they were not done so in a manner that reflects my character and my integrity, I'm saying no to it. There were some jobs, even with building brands in my former world of building brands with basketball, they were not consistent with what my character was. And so I said, no, there were opportunities to take advantage of athletes. And people said, hey, we'll give you a kickback, but it was not consistent with my character. And so I said no. And so even with dealing with my community, there have been conversations and things that have been presented to me that seemed like a great opportunity. But what I recognized is I was walking into a situation where I became the voice of Black America into a situation. I became the singular Black voice in the room. I became the only Black at the table. And I'm never comfortable with that, because if I can't come in the room and put my foot in the door and let somebody else in, if that's not the space that we're operating in, then I don't want to be a part of that space. I've done that for so many times. And so when I look at what Monique did in terms of her stance, she's standing up for her personal integrity. You know, they were all saying, Monique, just go ahead and I want you to apologize. And she says, apologize for what? Just get it over with. And Steve says to her, and you got to go watch this video, because it's so important and it's so consistent what happens in our community. We want to make it. We want to sit at the table. We want to sit at the table. We want to be in the room. We want to be in the know. We want to be in the flow. We want to get the contract. We want the deal, that we will often personally sacrifice our character and our integrity to play the green game instead of understanding what it means to you in terms of your character. What are you going to say, Rob?
I'm with you. I don't believe in compromise my character, values either. And I've rubbed many people wrong because I wouldn't do so. If I solely believe in my heart and my mind that I am living in my truth and doing the best I can with certain things, I'm not going to let you change that or dictate to me how it should be. You either accept me for what I am and what my values are, or I move on. So I can see where you're coming from and where Monique's coming from in that sense too.
And so the reason I said this, I'm not taking anybody's sides. I just want to share this, because it appears as though each of these individuals have come to her, some of them publicly and some in private. In private for a while, saying what you're saying is not wrong, including the wonderful power broker Oprah. As a Black woman, there has to be some sacrifices that you make to become that powerful in the time that she became that powerful. Right. And so, and I'm not going to say whatever. I'm not going to talk about anybody. I applaud your success. I am grateful for what Black America is doing. However, if you have to sell your soul and you have to sell your Black card in order to get or to kowtow or to apologize, because I'll tell you, change never happened, because Frederick Douglass, I think, said that power never concedes itself. And the only way to change anything is to be able to speak truth to power. And so I will never relinquish my ability or the opportunity or my positioning to speak truth to power for my own personal gain, understanding that it doesn't change the dynamics that other Black and brown folks have to deal with in our community. So I just wanted to get that off my shoulder. It was just dealing with me. Black folks, when you deal in spaces, in white spaces, and I'll say this, what I'm saying right now may be considered controversial. During the award, and this is so funny, when they were presenting me with the award, actually the keynote speaker began to address that when he first met me, he was the CEO of a company, one of the big companies here in the community, and he said that I was, I was kind of hard on him. People thought I was hard. But I asked the questions that matter, because I really care. At the end of the day, it's about my community. It's about my people. It's about paving ways and giving opportunities that have not been there before. And so it may seem as though I'm cantankerous. Now, if you have conversation, you work with me, you recognize that I will be willing to work with anybody, but I'm not willing to sell out my people for any trophy, any check, or anything. And that is just where I come from. So if I have to be cantankerous in one situation, if I have to appear as difficult, if I have to appear as playing the Black card, it's unfortunate. And I hate that anyone would feel that way. But that's often how, they feel. If they can corner us and make us difficult to deal with, then they can silence us. And I won't be silenced. I know that. So I'm going to continue to speak. With this show is called Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen. No chasers, no filter, getting straight to the heart of the matter. And that's exactly what we will do. Rob, go ahead.
And it's something else that I've learned in my 60-some years of this world. It took me a while but I can't change the way people perceive me. The perception is going to be what they are. And all I can do is be myself, and you work with that, because I don't try to change anyone else's view of me or be change my view of them. I wait to see how their character is. That's why I judge people by what they do rather than what they say. So it's a thing of perception, but I can't change the perception of me necessarily. I can just do what I can, and then we find a way to get along or reason together certain aspects. Okay, that's how Kareem is. That's how Rob is.
That's how we operate.
That's how we are, and then we deal with that and move on from there. And we try to find a way to make that gel.
All right, Rob, if we could take our commercial break right now, we're going to come back with our guest of the hour, Mike Frazier. That's Frazier with a Z, as I see he's put it in the stream. We'll be back with his conversation, his personal testimony. You don't want to miss this, so please call your mama, call your daddy, call your play cousins up the street. Tell them to get into this conversation. We're about to have it. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1.
This is the KISS community page.
Get your car sparkling clean with 11% off automotive products right now at Menards. Turtle Wax Max Power Car Wash can provide maximum strength cleaning for any car. From dirt and grime to bugs and even sap, it can handle it all. The more wash you use, the stronger the cleaning power. $4.99 after 11% rebate. Good through June 19th. Savings are a mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards. RocketGrabPlus.com.
This week's deal on RocketGrabPlus.com is for Sullivan's Food and Spirits. For only $10, you are going to get a $20 gift certificate to spend at Sullivan's Food and Spirits. If you've already been to Sullivan's, you know how good their food is, but if you haven't, they have a great selection of burgers to choose from, delicious salads, as well as a variety of seafood items to try. Grab your voucher today and head to Sullivan's for dinner. And it's all at RocketGrabPlus.com.
RocketGrabPlus.com.
You know your closet well, but what does it sound like? Yes, your closet. Does it whisper your taste? Does it scream your taste? Stitch Fix gets to know your unique style and fit. Its selection transforms to show you only the looks and trends you'll love. With a shopping experience that evolves alongside your taste, your closet will scream so you without actually screaming. Stitch Fix for women and men. We're so you.
It's Macy's Friends and Family with an extra 30% off special gifts from top designers just in time for Father's Day when you use your coupon or Macy's card. And take 15% off fragrances, skincare, and more great gift ideas now at Macy's. Plus, Macy's Star Rewards members earn on every purchase except gift cards, services, and fees. Sign up today at Macys.com/Star Rewards. Savings off regular, sale, and clearance prices. Exclusions apply.
You're listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome back. You're tuned in to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen. We are back, and I have our guest of the hour in studio with us. You can see his wonderful melanin face, my brother, Mike Frazier. Mike, want to just give a shout out to our Straight Talk audience.
Man, hello. How you guys doing? Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Man, it's so good to have you here this evening. And for those of you who are listening, once again, those of you at our social media stream, or if you're listening to us on your 107.1 FM dial, let someone know you can listen to the show in its entirety. Come back and catch the rest of it at a later time on KissWTLZ.com. It is right there. When you go to the page, you'll see Kareem Bowen's podcast, Straight Talk, right there on that front page. Click on there. You can listen to it live now. You can go back and listen to these in a podcast form on that same platform. And so I want to thank you guys for sharing this. Please like, tag, share, get your family involved. If you know someone who is going through a very difficult situation, is having trouble coming out of a traumatic experience, I think this is the conversation that you want them to be a part of. So, Mike Frazier, why don't you share a little bit about yourself to those who are listening, to those who are part of our Straight Talk audience? Where do you hail from? Where are you from originally?
Dallas, Texas. Born and raised. I'm a Texas boy.
You're a Texas boy. All right. So, Mike, you are, in terms of you growing up, a part of your story and a part of the DNA that you have is that you are a masterful musician. What instruments exactly do you play? Give me what you play.
I started out playing drums. I I mess around with keyboards a little bit, and but my main instrument now is bass guitar.
Okay, and so your gift, the bass guitar, landed you in a place, and it's interesting because our conversation and our connection is coming full circle after so many years.
The wonderful Miss Jackie Wade Day, who's in our stream on today.
A number of years ago, as we were talking, she had brought up your name before and the amazing testimony that you have. But your gift has taken you to some great heights. So why don't you share exactly what you've been able to do using the gift that God gave?
Man, it's been such a blessing. I was thinking about that the other day. You know, sometimes God blesses us with gifts and it opened doors up. But when you're in that moment, you really don't realize how blessed you are. But I've played for different artists like Kirk Franklin.
You got a name drop here, Mike. We like name dropping.
Yeah, I've toured with Kirk. I've done a couple of his tours. I've toured with the Canton Spirituals. I've toured with Tyler Perry. I was his bass guitarist and music director for several years. And I was one of the first musicians that Bishop Jakes hired when the Potter's House came to Dallas. I actually started playing drums at the Potter's House and left out and went on tour with Kirk. And then came back and they put me on bass guitar. And I left. I took a leave of absence to go on the road with Tyler to do his plays. And here it is. We're about, I guess, 15 years later. I never did go back.
Man, that is amazing. For those that are listening, we have so many people who have gifts and talents. We've had musicians. And I want to ask a question that is really off cuff. When I look at you and I look at the spaces that you've been able to operate, there's so many young Black folks who were raised in the church that didn't find a space or a place or necessarily the success that they wanted to in the kingdom business and decided to go elsewhere. How have you been able to efficiently and sufficiently operate in the space doing, your music in a place of the church? How have you been able to establish that?
Staying the course, not moving, just keeping God first, and knowing what I wanted to do. And I just never did move out of that place. And I stayed humble, very, very humbling experience. And my father always told me, hey, if you stay with God, he'll open some doors. And that happened. I never stopped dreaming.
Man, that is so powerful. When I hear Jakes and Tyler Perry and the names that you have listed and the places that you have played, in essence, this is the pinnacle of a bass player, a music director. You are on tour with Tyler Perry, who is now, Mr. Billionaire, doing amazing things around the world. Some would probably assume that life was peaches and cream with you 110%. What was the experience like that you were dealing with while on the road and now creating, you're building a legacy of your own, establishing your own character, your own brand. What was it like being on the road as a musician and trying to find your space and place in the world?
At times it was difficult because, I knew there was a bigger place for me, but I never got out of my lane. And when I went to go on the road with Tyler, I went in as a sub bass player. I was actually just supposed to be out on the road for 2 weeks. And the first night that I played at intermission, I'm in the green room getting some tea, and I felt this big statue walk in the room. and this deep voice said, "Negro, who are you?" and I looked back, and it was him. It was Tyler. And I said, "Well, I'm the bass player." I was thinking he was saying, "Why are you in the green room?" And he said, "Yeah, I know you, the bass player. How did you know my show? How do you know my show?" And I said, "Well, they overnighted me the music, and I got on a plane and flew here listening to it, and here I am." And so he walks out, and about 10 minutes later, the music director, who was Elvin Ross at the time, he walks back in and said, "Hey, man, can you complete this tour?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, Tyler don't want the other bass player back." And so that led to other tours, and then Elvin Ross went on to start scoring music. He's scoring Tyler's music now to his movies and things, and he wanted to spend more time with his family. And when he left, he called me, which I was very disappointed to see him go, because we was really close on the road. And he tells me, "Hey, man, I'm leaving, but I'm recommending that Tyler makes you the music director." And that was kind of strange for a bass player to become the music director of a play, but it happened. I was scared to death. Didn't really know what I was doing, but I didn't let them know that. As a music director, I didn't. But as I kind of just kept going in it and walking in it, I realized that my dad kind of had molded me for it, because my dad was a quartet singer, and that's where I got my musical background at. I was born into a quartet family, and he when I was very young on bass, he started telling me to call the show. "Hey, the music is in your hands." And here it is. I'm the youngest person in the group telling these old cats, this is what the set is going to be tonight. And so he was training me for it then, and I didn't realize it. But once I got on the road, it just became natural. And man, I loved it at the time. And even now, usually when I'm called out for gigs, it's very seldom that I go out as just the bass player. Usually I'm the MD.
The music director.
Yes,
from
sir.
the bass. That is something very unique. Now I want to kind of move forward and progress in the story. When I first was introduced to you, I was sent a link with an interview. And when I saw this, I'm like, "Whoa, this is Juanita Bynum." And then "Whoa, this is Tyler Perry." So you are there with all of the heavy hitters. And Tyler was preparing to introduce you to the story. To the stage, and this was actually the TBN or something of that nature.
Yes, TBN.
Big platform. You're doing great things. You're playing all over the place. And I really want to end the conversation in the same manner that we did on that interview. And the reason being was because I think that it's important for people to realize that when you're going through, oftentimes in life, we have to be able to deal with the trauma that we're dealt and keep moving forward. And when I look at who you are, and we've had, we've been on the phone for hours now having this conversation, I'm amazed at how you are able to fortify yourself in the midst of your storm. So I want to pick up this conversation at the point that you're on. I think it's a tour bus, and Tyler Perry recognizes, I guess, family images on your shirt. If you could pick up the story right there, and let's just begin to share what happened in that moment.
Yeah, at that time, I hadn't been out on the road long with him. I think that might have been the third or fourth day, and we were on our way to the next city. And I was sitting in the back of the tour bus, and I have always been an introvert. I was, and I didn't know them. I was just kind of sitting back, riding along, and he comes. He's on his way to the restroom, and he looks and he sees the T-shirt. And he stops back on his way to a seat, and he said, "So who is that on your shirt?" And I said, "This is my mom and dad." And he had this strange look on his face, and he said, "So what happened?" Because the T-shirt was their picture, and it said "in love and memory." And I began to tell him and said, I was involved in a car accident, and my mother, my father, my 2-year-old daughter, my daughter's mother, and my nephew were all in the car accident, and I was the only one that made it out. And he just stopped. He froze, and it looked like tears came to his eyes, and he was like, "What did you say?" And I repeated it, and he said, "So you're telling me you lost your whole family?" And I said, "Yes." And he was asking me all these questions, and he just told me, he's like, "Man, wow, how did you make it through that?" And at the time, I told him, I said, "I'm still living through it, And so that's how the story was introduced to him. He had no idea. None of them had no idea. The production manager, he was the one that brought me out. We just hadn't too long came off of the tour with the Tour Life. It was Kirk Franklin, Fred Hammond, and Yolanda Adams, and this guy named X-Ray. He was the stage manager, and he became the tour manager with Tyler. And they came to Dallas, and I was getting ready to MD another show, and me and my partner just happened to go out there to check out the setup. And so I run into X-Ray, and he gives me tickets to the show that night. And so I'm like blown away by it. It was I know I've been changed. I'm blown away by it. A couple of days later, X-Ray calls and say, "Hey, I need you to come out and sub." And so then that leads to me a plan with Tyler, and we was on our way to another city, and that's how I was able to tell him about the story that I had gone through.
Well, Mike, this is an amazing story, and I want us to take a step. Let's take a couple steps back. I want you to take me to the day. What was going on? Okay, explain the day. Set up the story in terms of what was going on the day that you met tragedy. What was going on that day?
It was a Friday. It was the day started out a very beautiful day. Jade, my daughter, and Sandy was a singer, and she was in town to do a project with DFW Mass Choir back then. And so,
and who was Sandy? Who was Sandy?
Sandy was Jade's mom, my fiance. She was my fiance, and so they was up she was getting prepared to do the project with them, and also to move back to Dallas. And so it was a normal day. On Fridays, I would get up and cut the yard. I was still at home with my parents, and that was my day. On Fridays, that's what I did. I would go get my hair cut. And that particular evening, I went to a Little League football game for my partners. His son was playing. And when I was on my way back home, and every Friday and Saturday, we always, as a family, would go out to eat. And this particular Friday, we was on our way to meet a couple, and it began to rain. And we were on our way, just laughing and talking. The freeway was backed up due to an accident, and my dad took a exit and to detour around the traffic. And unfortunately, he drove right into a flooded bridge. He didn't know it was at night. Anybody that has run into water at night, it blends in with the street. And
so, Mr. Frazier, let me stop you really quick. So you're out on having a good evening. The idea is to get together. You're with family. You have your mother, your father's driving, your fiance, your child, and your nephew all in a car.
Yes, sir.
And this is a Friday. It's a storm. It's Dallas. When they come through hard.
Right.
And because, as you said, when rain comes down in dry places, it often creates puddles of water everywhere, and it's difficult to tell the difference between the road and these bodies of water. And so your father makes a turn thinking that he's going to get around through the traffic that is created by this backup on the highway, and he misinterprets where he's going.
Right. And just drove right into a flooded bridge and installed the car. Before we could get out of the car, we sat there for a minute because at that time we really didn't know what had happened. And I remember him trying to start the car back up. And of course it was just nothing. And I remember him letting the window down because we could hear people. It was a kind of a residential area, and we could hear people kind of yelling. And he let the window down and kind of sat on the edge of a door. And he yelled to them. He said, "Get help. We have children in the car."
How high was the water at this point?
At that point, it was probably at the bumper, I would imagine, for it to stall the car. And we knew we was in water, but as he's yelling, saying, "Get help," the water starts seeping into the car. And I remember my nephew saying, "Water is coming in." And my father, I said, "Let's get out. Let's get out." And my dad's last words to me was, "Don't panic. Don't panic." And I have later found out that we were because the water started rushing like Niagara Falls, and it just came from nowhere. Well, we ended up being in the wrong place at the wrong time. We found out that they would turn floodgates loose to flood certain areas to
protect other areas.
Exactly. And that's why it came like that out of nowhere. And it flipped the car. It picked the car up and flipped it over into a creek. And it was chaos. My dad got flipped over out of the car. And the last thing I heard as the car was filling full of water was my daughter. She started to scream and the water swallowed her voice up. And I remember the car hitting the bottom of the creek. I at that point I didn't think I was going to make it. But God had other plans for me, and some kind of way I was able to get out.
I want to ask you right now, as I'm hearing this story, and you've shared this story with me, and we've talked about it, and we've talked about how God protects us, and not only physically, but how He protects our hearts and our minds through traumatic episodes. And how many times have you shared this story with other individuals?
Oh, probably thousands of times. I've quite a few times.
Does it get any better telling the story than from the first time you had to utter the words from your mouth?
No, it doesn't. It's always, because it's something I have to relive in going back, but it's a two-part to that. It opens up a wound, but I know that's why I'm here. And if I can go through a little pain to tell the story to help somebody else, especially in this day and time, when I look and see how death has literally came and seemed like it has taken the world over. We're still in COVID, but it was it was so bad, and now we're in this almost epidemic of people killing each other. It's the end thing. People are going assassinating people. People are at stores getting killed, and babies are at schools. And when I see on the news, I see their families, and you can just see the life leaving them. You can when you hear about the young man that lost his wife in the shooting, and days later he has a heart attack from grieving. I counted, when I heard that, I felt like a failure, because I felt like I should have been there to reach out to him, to say, "Hey, listen, I get it, but don't lose hope. You can make it." And so when I'm telling the story and I feel like I'm helping somebody, it's worth it.
Okay, so we now see, Mike, that your father's made this wrong turn. He is sitting in the window of his car yelling to people that are in this surrounding area, go get help. He is then telling everyone else in the car, don't panic. Nephew says, water's coming into the car. What was going through your mind at that time, understanding that you had your current family and, as you said it, your future family all in the same place at the same time? What were you thinking in that moment?
It was fear. I was thinking, okay, what do we do? I had no idea that we were going to get flipped over into a creek. Seemed like a bottomless creek. I thought maybe it was just going to be a scare, and that we would get pushed up against the guardrails and we would get wet. It was just different things. I didn't feel like we were in big trouble until the car actually went over into the creek and water started, it started filling the car. Then I knew at that point we're probably not going to make it. And of course, I was praying, saying, God, if it's anything in me that's not like you, forgive me for my sins. I felt like that was it for me and my family.
So the car tips over. Your dad is catapulted because he's sitting in the window. So if the car flips, he gets thrown basically over the car into the water.
Exactly.
Share with us what's going on, Mike, and how do you get out and what takes place in this moment?
I remember kind of reaching from the back seat to try to grab him. And of course I couldn't. And it was just, it's unimaginable for how we was just being tossed around in the car, and everybody was screaming. It was something like you would see on a movie. I remember just almost taking it in, saying, okay, and I could remember kind of feeling around the car, and I remember the car hitting the bottom of the creek. At that time, I couldn't see anything. And I just remember kind of kicking around, and I never touched anyone. I was kind of trying to, feel my way around. In some kind of way, I was out of the car. I don't remember. I don't know if the windows, I'm pretty sure maybe the windows broke out and I got tossed out of the car. I don't know how I got out of the car other than the grace of God. And I had to, once I got out of the car, I started kind of kicking, trying to get to the top. When I would get to the top, I was being rushed down creek, because remember, I'm in this water that's been just tossing. The firemen were saying, man, telephone poles was being tossed around in this water like they was toothpicks. And so I remember being able to come up for air one last time, and as I was being tossed down the creek, I was able to catch on to a tree where I had to hold on. After they got me off the tree, I found out I was on a tree holding on for about 45 minutes before rescue units was able to get to me.
Okay, and you say, as we were having this conversation, and you have chronicled this in a book, Surviving the Storm, Finding Life After Death. They take you home. You're like, I got to go back and find my family. When you get back to the scene of this incident, this accident, you said that you and your family you and those that were with you were jumping in the water and literally pulling out the bodies of your loved ones.
People were already, I made it home. Of course, the news had spread it. And then people started going. Now, this is in the middle of the night. So you had rescue units, you had policemen down there. They would only allow us to do so much. And so throughout the night, people were still looking for them. I had to go to the emergency room to get checked out because people were saying, "Hey, we don't know, are you okay?" I'm saying I'm okay. So as I'm getting ready to go to the emergency room, we got a call. Actually, as I was coming back from the emergency room, we got a call that Sandy and my mom had been found.
Wow.
And so I goes, to another hospital where they were thinking that they were okay because they didn't say that they was deceased. They said they had been found. And so I was greeted by a chaplain, and he said, "You're the young man that was in the car. You're here for your family." And I said, "Yes." And he said they're both dead. And that's how I got the news that they were gone. He blunt. He just blurted out, "They're dead." And it was devastating to hear that.
So, Mike, when you look at this and you have lost mother, father, fiance, daughter, and nephew, you get the information that no one has survived other than yourself. What are you going through? Because often there's something called survivor's remorse, where why did I make it? Why am I here? Is that something that you experienced? How did you navigate the pain and the extreme grief that I would imagine would accompany this type of a tragedy?
It was tough. It was tough because we were getting news that each person was being found. So everybody wasn't found at the same time. So that night, they had found my mom and Sandy. They didn't come back and they didn't find my dad until like 7 a.m. that next morning. And so now the kids are still missing. And so they found Courtney, my nephew. He was 11. They found him about 11 that morning. And Jade, I remember them coming saying we having a hard time finding her. So they sent some people, some police officers to the house to get some of her clothes to get so they could get some dogs to try to sniff her body out. And before they could get back, somebody had stumbled up on her. And so that night, to find out that my mother and Sandy was gone, they gave me something to try to go to sleep, that night. And I might have dozed off maybe for about 10 minutes. And I hear people commotion in the den. Of course, they had got the call that my dad was found. And one of his good friends came in the bedroom. And he leaned over and I already knew. And he had his wallet in his hand and he handed it to me. And he said we was too late. And so that it was just, it was almost like my heart was snatched out. And so to get all the way up to that evening, and when they finally came and said they found Jade, I was done. I was empty. I didn't want to be, here. I just, there's a pain when you lose parents, but there's a whole nother pain that comes with losing a child. That's immediately your faith is challenged at that point when you lose a child.
Okay, Mike, this is absolutely amazing. And I thank you for sharing this story. Where we have a connection, which is so interesting, is that 1987, I think it was June 23rd, I had a cousin that was supposed to go swimming with in an area, Haith Cove Recreational Lake here, before it was developed, and he drowned in that water. And I have an aunt who has never fully recovered 100% from that loss.
Right.
There are so many individuals. You talk about COVID. 1 million people died during COVID. Tragedy, pain, loss, suffering. How did you navigate this process, this extreme grief? This is what wasn't one or two. This was your entire family. How did you navigate the grief and to survive that storm?
It was a day by day walk. It was a week by week, second by second. You know, it's even now, even though it's been years, it has been. I still have my moments. I still miss them. I when I talk about them, sometimes I have to fight back the emotions. And I would say, and this just hit me the other day because as my story is now being just kind of rebirthed, if you will. This question has come up a lot. How have you been able to move forward? And I would say to people, we have to learn, and I had to learn. I didn't know it then, but as I have matured, as I'm maturing in this thing, I had to learn not to live in the moment, not to stay in that moment. Have to realize that there is a tomorrow. And I had to forgive myself for surviving. And so that was the first step, because I there were so many questions, the what if, and I shoulda, coulda, woulda. And I had to now when I say this, please don't take this wrong. I had to stop thinking so highly of myself. In other words, I took everything out of the hands of God and started saying it was my fault. I did this. Well, I couldn't have made it flood, and so everything became about Mike Frazier. And I had to stop being somewhat selfish. Now, when it first happened, you can be whatever you want to be because you're grieving. But right. When you mature and you start living, and God blesses you with people in your life, and you have to realize that time is moving on, and you have to say, listen, God didn't leave me here for nothing. And that would have been the real tragedy, because I went through a state of depression. I would go to bed at night with a gun in my hand, trying to figure out how I could take myself out. I didn't feel like I had anything to live for. So I had to get out of the moment, and I had to start saying, why did I survive? And I had to find that purpose. I had to realize that I got purpose. I'm number 6 out of 5 people in a car, and I'm the one that survived. Wait a minute. It's something to this.
So, Mike, let me ask you this question. So a part of you died at the bottom of that creek with your family.
Yes.
The title of your book is Surviving the Storm, Finding Life After Death.
Yes.
Death is a dark moment.
Right.
And as a spiritual man, we always understand that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. When did you see that spark of light for this new life begin to take place in your life? How was God present with you in your moment or your challenge?
It was, God never left me. Even when I left him, he never left me. And so for years, I was my life consisted of I was a full-time musician. Now this was before I had went on the road full-time, so I was just playing at church, and so I would go to church, play, go to rehearsals, play. I would come back home, and if I couldn't sleep, I would pop Excedrin PMs, whatever I could take to go to sleep. And so I wasn't doing nothing during the day. And one morning I woke up about 7 a.m. and I looked out the window, and all the windows in the house, I had blacked them out. It was just darkness. And I got up, started moving around, and it was such a sunny day. And it was just almost like something said, get up and start moving around. And I kind of started practicing more on my bass. And I just realized that, man, I got to do something. And I survived for a reason. And so I started talking to people. And when I would talk to people, they would be like, you bless me. Now mind you, I was a part of my dad's group, but I was so shy. I could not speak in front of people. But the night of their musical wake, I got up and I spoke. And I ran into a lady a few months after that, and I was in the store. She said, "You're Mike Frazier." I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "You saved my life." And I said, "How?" And she said, You got up at the musical wake, and you were such a blessing, and I seen so much strength in you. I saw God all on you." And she said, "I just came that night to pay my respects, and I was going to go home and kill myself." And she said, "But you gave me new life." And, I was like, man, it's something to this. And so I started telling my story, and that would give me strength. And so I would see people being blessed by it. And I had this bright idea to write a book.
So I want you to share where we can write this book. We're going to continue this conversation after the stream because I think this is important. So if you're watching on YouTube or whatever, but I want you to share on air, where can people find Surviving the Storm?
You can go to my website, survivingthestorm.com. And you can go on and order the book. I've been told that it's a pretty good book. So I made a deal with God. I said, I told him, I said, if you tell me the words to put in it and tell me how to, write the story, you'll get the credit for it. And I said, now the twist part of this is if it don't do nothing, if it don't bless people, you're going to get the credit for that too. So,
all right. So I want our audience to please stay tuned. We're going to continue with this conversation, but those that are listening on KISS 107.1, we want to thank you for listening in. This is Kareem Bowen with another conversation on Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen. Giving it to you straight, no chaser, no filter. Thank you for tuning in. Grace and peace.
You've been listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1. The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen by the host, its guests, or call-ins do not necessarily represent the opinion of this station, the staff, its owners, Alpha Media USA, or its advertisers.
KISS 107.1 is
Are we able to continue? Can you hear me, Mike?
In the morning is simply the best R&B all day. Take us everywhere. Your smartphone, in your car, to work, or live at KISSWTLZ.com. We're KISS 107.1.
So I just want to finish out this conversation, Robert. Are we able to continue? Yeah, but I got your music coming through here. Now. All right, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I can't hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. What I want to do is just really quickly, I want you to begin to just with the time that we have left here, just a few minutes. I want you to share what life after death looks like for you. You have gone through the course. You survived the incident, the accident. You've come out of the sun is beginning to shine. You open the curtains. You're back on the base. What's happening with you now?
Gotcha. Okay. I just kind of engulfed myself with music. I started realizing that I can. I'm making it. That I am here for a reason, and I started understanding purpose. And I dived into that, and I just began. I started writing, and I started. People started inviting me to churches, and people would put me on funerals, to speak. And I would notice when I would walk into a funeral, people, their eyes would light up, and they'd say, "Hey, if you made it, I can make it." And that's what I share with people all the time.
What would you say to someone who's experiencing or finding themselves in a dark place, curtains closed, telling everyone that they're okay, but really suffering in silence? And we have a lot of people who suffer in silence. They push forward, but they're not living. How do they begin to find life? What did you do to find life and purpose?
Don't conquer fear. Understand that the enemy gives us the spirit of fear, and you have to get past that. You have to forgive yourself, and you have to understand that you are here for a reason, and jump into it. Don't be afraid to fail. Some of the most successful people that we know of had failures. You have to fail to be able to become a success. And so that's what I would say. Find your purpose. Know that there is a purpose for you. If it wasn't for you to be here, you wouldn't be here. And start speaking to yourself. Encourage yourself. I had to get to the point to where I had to get in the mirror and I had to encourage myself. And I am somebody. I started walking in it. I am somebody. I got something to say. I done been through. I've been tested. I got a testimony, and God gets all the glory for that. And so once you get into that place, you just need to move forward.
So someone who's out there listening to us today said, okay, that's your story. I feel bad for you. But what you're dealing with isn't what I dealt with. Your pain isn't my pain. And maybe because you had, support, and you had Tyler Perry, you had support and people that are around you. What would you say to them? Because each person's grief is unique in their own way. What would you say to them to help them encourage to just get up one more day?
Understand that you're being built for something. Understand that before construction can take place, destruction have to take place. There's a groundbreaking that's happening, and God got you. You're on your way somewhere. Pain has a way of chauffeuring you, being the driver to success. And you understand what I'm saying? So when pain comes, when trials and tribulations come, now I welcome them, because I'm saying, something is about to happen. It's about to be on and popping in my life. So
Mike, that was so powerful. Before there's ever a building, and I'm a builder, so before building ever takes place, you got to start the demolition.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the most broken places in our lives are the foundations for what God will use to build and catapult us to that next level of purpose.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. So talking about next level of purpose, just really quickly, where are you at now, and how are you seeing this purpose, turning your pain into purpose? How are you seeing that manifest?
Everything is being full circle right now. I see things coming full circle. I'm starting to get back into music. It's on my mind I think I need to go ahead and start writing another book. I'm starting a foundation to where I can reach out to people. I want to be like one of the first responders. I want to be able to pull up and jump out with my sleeves rolled up, saying, "Hey, I got you. Come, let me pray with you. Come, let me talk to you." So I'm excited about those things. There's so many things I'm putting my hands in. Got some production work I'm working on, and so it's almost like I done kicked into a second gear.
Mike, I'm so glad, and we're gonna close this conversation out, but I want to say this. The day that you came into my sphere, now I had been introduced to you years before, but the morning that I woke up, I prayed to God to remove everything and everyone from my life that was not attached to my purpose. And there were literally phone numbers and people that I deleted from my phone. And I got a call from Jackie Wade Day, who's on here today. Right. And she said, "You got to meet Mike." And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm in the place that I'm removing people from my life. What are you doing? But after hearing your story and understanding your pain and seeing you make punch out of your pain, and you're drinking this, and it is sweet to see you smile and be able to emerge from such a desolate place. And as we communicate, I recognize that there is a connection and a purpose to what we're doing. And as you begin to talk about your first responders, I think about so many people who will be moved to be a part of what you're doing. So I'm excited. And, I told you, you let me know where I need to be when it happens.
Yes, sir.
And I am there. And so I thank you for your purpose. And I think that your purpose in this season, as we have been talking, 1 million people have suffered loss from COVID.
Wow.
There are so many people that are grieving and trying to figure out how to move forward after such tremendous loss. And I think that your book, Surviving the Storm, Finding Life After Death, can be a tool in their toolkit for recovering life and finding new life and purpose. So I want to thank you for sharing your story. And as always, I want to give you the last few words. What do you want to say in closing on today?
Listen, just know we're living in a rough time, but don't lose hope. Don't throw your life away. Even for those, there might be someone listening that's saying, hey, I don't have nothing to live for. I'm gonna go commit a crime. No, don't do that. You have to keep the faith. Don't lose hope. Just keep walking, keep living, and know that it got to be a brighter day. And remember this. And this is this is Surviving the Storm motto. Behind every dark cloud, the sun is still shining. Okay. And remember this, the enemy cannot undo what God has already done. So your life is predestined. Just keep walking and walk into it. He brought me through my storm, he can do the same thing for you. You'll be all right. And I'm here, survivingthestorm.com. Reach out to me. Send me an email. Let's talk.
That's awesome. Mike, thank you so very much. I just want to say to those who don't have faith, you share how your faith was key to helping you get through it. And what I want to say to everyone that's listening on today and is that whenever you read in biblical texts, God was always in the storm. And so sometimes it takes a storm for us to really fully understand who he is so that we can understand who we are, so that we can be empowered by purpose. Yes. I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. For those of you who are in dark moments, remember that the darkest hour is just before daybreak. Thanks for you guys for tuning in today. We certainly thank you. We appreciate you. Mike, my brother, I ain't going nowhere. I'm right here with you, my man.
Hey, man, I'm going to hold you to that. Same to you. Anytime you need me, I'm here. And let's get together and bring some of those good things that you're doing down there to Dallas.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's make some stuff happen.
Absolutely. God bless you all. God bless you. Grace and peace.